say the word is experience. There are a lot of people that have experience, but they haven't really lived the transformation of something that went from a very bad thing to something that could be good. Usually the people who write about this, talk about this, and live this stop at the "it's a terrible thing, woe is me," and there are no answers. Truthfully, there aren't answers to how to cure addiction. Not yet. Maybe one day there will be. But there are ways to navigate through this addiction of a loved one to make yourselves still be able to have some peace and serenity and even happiness in your life. Most of the people who write about this subject and who talk about this subject they talk about their addicts, actually. And for me, what I like to do is talk about what happens to families, what happens to the people in the families, the family dynamics, and how I use the family dynamics to transform my life into something better and more positive. I always say that my recovery to being addicted to my addicts happened way before any of my addicts decided to be in recovery being addicted to drugs and alcohol. I know that just recently in the last few years, they've scientifically proven that they've isolated the gene for addiction. So theoretically, if you know that you have that possibility of that genetic component in your family, it would be a good thing to urge yourself and other people in your family not to start doing anything that would harm you, because you have the propensity to make it into an addiction. Even people who are in recovery for 25 years, the majority of them will say they use the term one day at a time. There is no cure. It is just arrested. And for family members, I would say, because this really seems to be the idea at the moment, one day maybe there will be a cure, but nobody really has one now. I think it's important for family members to understand that they don't have control. They can only control how they deal with it and react to it, and offer positive things if the addicts are trying things that are good, but not try to control their addicts. They can only control themselves and how they feel. I truly believe that knowledge is power, as they say, and the more you know about addiction, about brain chemistry, about what kind of therapies there are, and the more you know, just the more you know, the more apt you are to come across something that seems to fit into your family dynamic and into how you raised your children, or it's not always children. It could be your husband, your wife, your parents. You'll come across something. I think constant education is the best way to have hope and offer your addicts and alcoholics different avenues to follow. That is a good word, expectations. I really believe the saying that expectations are premeditated resentments. I believe that expectations in the whole world of addiction is a terrible thing to have, an expectation, because we have great expectations of people in general, and we're always very disappointed. But when you have an addict in your family, I've learned over the years, being with other family members and being part of this for like 10 years at least, that our expectations really drop and they get lower and lower and lower. So it's easier when you understand that you have an addict in your family that you're dealing with. It's good to come across somebody like me that tells you don't start out with big expectations, because it's a long process to lower those expectations, and you're kind of belaboring and making things harder for yourself and for your addict. Well, there are two really good ways. The first good way is to go to my radio page on webtalkradio.net and click on the show Addicted to Addicts Survival 101. There you'll find an email address that you can email to me, and that would be a good way. And also my website, which is www.denisecrochta.com, and that's Krochta. And there you'll find all my contact information. If I were to give someone a final tip to start off their own recovery, I would say the first thing would be to step back, take a deep breath, and don't engage in the chaos.